Monahan parked in front. Docks to Caulfield. Fires. Scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
What is going on, guys? We're going to go right for it right away. We're not doing that. We were doing this. There it is, guys. Montreal Canadiens, 3-2 win. Another big win. Another big win. The Canadiens are on a roll. This is the team that we have been waiting for. This is the team that the Montreal Canadiens have been working on for a long time. And it's exciting. It's fun to watch. A 3-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Again, we're so used to considering the Tampa Bay Lightning to be one of the good teams in the league, we kind of forget that we're one of the good teams in the league right now. So yeah, and yes, you bring up a really good point, Billy. Can we maybe keep Samuel Montembeault on this team for a little while longer? Can we maybe stop talking about him losing his number one job? Can we maybe stop talking about Jakub Dobeš becoming the number one, and can we stop all this ridiculous conversation about we need to give more Jakub Dobeš is a better goalie than Sam Montembeault. Can we just relax with all that stuff? Like the knee-jerk Montreal Canadiens fan reaction, the typical baloney that we see from such a big majority of the Montreal Canadiens fan base. Can we just stop it with that stuff? It's crazy. I don't know how many people I had to tell today that they're crazy for thinking that Jakub Dobeš deserves a number one job in the NHL after just 4 games or 5 games. It's crazy, right? You don't change your number one goalie because one guy plays really, really well. You change your number one goalie because one guy struggles, and neither of these two guys are struggling right now. Right? They're both contributing just fine. The team is doing better than it's done in years. Why can't we just leave it alone? Why can't we just, what do they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why are we trying to fix something that ain't broken? Montreal Canadiens fans are always in constant search for something to try and fix. And there's nothing to be fixed here. Both goalies are playing well, and it's working out really, really well where Montembeault is playing, let's say, 3 out of every 4 games. Obviously, he doesn't have to play 6 out of every 7 or 7 out of every 8 the way he did when Caden Primo was around, because Caden Primo struggled. But there's no benefit whatsoever to this team of moving Jakub Dobeš ahead of Sam Montembeault in the rotation. It makes no sense, right? It runs the risk of hurting Dobeš's progress, right? If you throw him into the fire, you put him in situations he's not ready for, you run the risk of ending this beginning of his career that is going so well. You run the risk of cutting that short and perhaps even stunting his growth even further, right? We've seen goaltenders in the past that have struggled because they were rushed a little bit. You run the risk of losing Sam Montembeault, who's doing just fine and playing well for this team. So why would you possibly think about that? Just stop it with all that stuff, guys. Anyways, I hate to start on a negative note, but yeah, it was a great game, guys. I don't think the Canadiens played their best hockey, but they did play well when they had to. Sam Montembeault made the saves that needed to be saved when the time came around. They buried their chances against one of the best goalies in the league, apparently, and they were able to pull off a really nice win, clutch goal. Dealing with adversity. They hung on in that third period. Again, I'm going to go through some of the advanced stats after the game. I think that the advanced stats on this game are really Natural Stat Trick said that the Montreal Canadiens had 0 high danger chances in the third period, and that Tampa Bay had 10. Right? So 10-0 high danger scoring chances in the third period. According to Natural Stat Trick, the Montreal Canadiens were out high danger chanced by Tampa Bay tonight, 21-4. So I think having a little bit of skepticism about some of the advanced stats is probably warranted. And so if you're a guy who thinks that everything is all about advanced stats, then maybe here's an example of where you can maybe find some flaws with respect to the advanced statistics. Frank says, we have to sign Jake Evans, cannot afford losing him, such a great player. I think they can afford to lose him, which is a nice thing. It would obviously be very nice if he stuck around. It would be really, really nice to have him on the team. But again, they're not in a scenario where if he goes, they're going to be dead in the water. Obviously, you want to keep him if you at all can. But again, you're not going to sign him at any cost. You're going to sign him if you can get the right price for him. If you can sign him for the right amount, you will. I think the Canadiens will make that move. But again, I don't think you sign him at any cost. And again, I think if he does move on, it's not the end of the world for the Canadiens. The Canadiens have a lot of really good young players coming up who can play in that role. It just means that you lose Jake Evans, which again I don't think is ideal, but I don't think it's the end of the world. Claude Richard, another great win. Go Habs, go! Jordan, I was waiting to see that beauty facial foliage, my friend. Okay, man, I like it. I'm very good, thank you. Yes, Monty did play very well. Lane Hudson, Lane Hudson had another good game. Again, I think Lane is. Not his best game tonight. I mean, again, any game, it's not doesn't mean he played badly. It's just, I think right now he's working on things a little bit, right? I think that game on Saturday night shook him up a little bit, and I think we're seeing him not struggle. I don't think he's struggling by any means, but I think he is very conscious of the decisions that he makes on the ice right now, and it's making him a little bit hesitant compared to normal. But again, a slightly hesitant Lane Hudson is still better than most others. What's up, Entertap? It was a huge win. Thank you. Yes, the second coming of Ken Dryden. Yes. Well, we like to do stuff like that in Montreal. We like to throw guys off a bridge when they're playing badly, and we like to anoint them the next greatest thing when they do well. We plan a Stanley Cup parade when the team wins 3 or 4 games in a row, and we're ready to burn down the Bell Center when they lose 3 or 4 in a row. So Montreal Canadiens fans have a tendency towards knee-jerk reactions, and it frustrates me sometimes. Monty saved the day big time in the third. Yes, he did. Yeah, Montembeault was definitely the star of the game in the third period. I agree with you completely, Patrick. Well, I agree with Devin for the if it ain't broke, don't fix it is my personal belief. Monty is a Jake Allen level backup, but he's not our future. He's not the caliber. I don't agree with you, Jordan. I disagree with you. I think that Sam Montembeault is a starter in the NHL. I don't think he puts up the spectacular numbers that we see from some goaltenders. Like, he's not going to put up Vasilevsky numbers. He's not going to put up Carey Price numbers, but he's the kind of goalie who can consistently give your team a chance to win, right? So is he a top 10 goalie in the NHL? Probably not. But he's a goalie who always gives you a chance to win. Does he have, is this, to me, the best goalies are the ones who are consistent, right? So if you're a top 10 goalie in the league, it's because you're more consistent than the others. Like, Sam Montembeault can go out and play as well as any goalie on any given night. But it's not about that, right? What it's about is the goalies that can do it time and time and time again. Like, how often do they do that? Carey Price was great because he consistently, stepped on the ice and played really, really well. Hellebuck is really good because he plays at that level, virtually every night. We're seeing Swayman struggle with that now, right? Swayman's become the number one in Boston, and, he's having a hard time dealing with that workload, and he's having a hard time dealing with being the number one guy. But at the end of the day, what you want from your goalie is a guy who can, give you a chance to win on most nights. Sometimes, he just has to be, make the the normal regular saves, and the offensive guys, the rest of the team can sort of take care of the rest. Some nights he has to stand on his head, right? And goaltending in the NHL is very, 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 very driven by the team that the goaltender has in front of them, right? It's not, goaltenders in this league are not winning games by themselves. It's just, I mean, again, I know I'm going to get some punchback on that, but goaltend. If Connor Hellebuck played for the Anaheim Ducks, he would not have a 940 or whatever it is save percentage that he has right now. He just wouldn't. It's not realistic. He wouldn't be viewed as the same goaltender as he is playing on Winnipeg. Vasilevsky playing on Tampa Bay benefits from being on Tampa Bay. So again, I'm not going to agree with you, Jordan, that he is a Jake Allen level backup, or that he's a backup at all. He's a very capable starting goaltender in this league. And I'm happy to have him. And again, you're right as well. I'm happy to have him, but I'm also happy to have, guys like Jakub Dobash and, Jacob Fowler and Mikas Vikvaniks and, Volokin and these guys in the organization. I'm happy to have them as well. Pad Zalewski, that picture always makes me angry. Yeah, he's a good goaltender. Umeki, what's going on? Oh, it's Zach. Which Zach? It's been a while that I've been fun watching the Habs play. Let's keep the streak going. Which Zach are you? Umeki Zach? You're not Zach Candido, I don't think, unless you've changed your username. Larry, thank you. Yes, it was a great game. Welcome. A-Team, Monty, Line, Slavkovsky, and Carrier. No. Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that's not who I have. But like I said on Coach's show, Entertap, if you ever want to do a guest, I don't mean come on to the show to guest to do the A-Team, but if you want to send me your A-Team beforehand, I can put it together, and the A-Team can be brought to you by everybody's favorite YouTuber, Entertap. We can do that. Look at Brodeur, great goaltender, but a huge advantage with that defense. Yeah, I do. I don't know if I really want to go down that road, Umeki, but I would hesitate to call Martin Brodeur a great goaltender. I would take that even a step further. Martin Brodeur to me was not a great goaltender. He was a good goaltender, maybe even a very good goaltender, but highly overrated. So let the fight begin about that. It's nice to get the victory, but to be honest, we did not play the greatest of games tonight. However, you have to find a way of winning if you want to contend seriously in the playoffs. Yeah, I agree with that, Entertap. So to me, when I started the game tonight, the takeaway or the thing I wanted to look for tonight was the ability to show up every night. Like we've been talking a lot about winning habits, and every game I try and sort of focus in on a different kind of winning habit. And tonight, the winning habit that I wanted to focus on was the ability of the team to show up every night. And what I mean by that is are you there's 82 games in a season, right? And it's very easy to take a night off, or to chill out a little bit, or not give your best, or think, it doesn't really matter if I don't really do my best tonight. It's really easy to do that. Like it's a grueling schedule that these guys are on, and the Canadiens in particular right now are at the tail end of a pretty grueling schedule. And so the question tonight for me was, is the team going to show up? Right? Are they going to show up tonight? Big games on Saturday and Sunday. All the emotion of Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, Toronto Maple Leafs. The whole world's watching, and obviously the game didn't go as well as they wanted to, but it was a highly emotional game. It would have been a draining game physically and mentally. And then on Sunday night, you had another, highly emotional game where the Canadiens pull off an overtime win against the Rangers. Really electric atmosphere at the Bell Center. Again, a lot of emotion, a lot of energy. That game would have taken a lot out of them as well. And so the question is, on a Tuesday, in the middle or near the end of January, what are you going to get from these guys after those two games? What kind of team is going to show up, and what kind of team is going to step on the ice for the Canadiens? And I think you're right, Endertap. It wasn't their best effort. I don't think they were that great tonight. But like you say, sometimes you have to win games where you're not the best team on the ice. Like how many games have we seen them lose that they deserve to win? right? We argued on Saturday that they probably deserved a better fate than what they got. We argued when they lost to Chicago a few weeks ago that they probably deserved a better fate than what they got. There were a number of games in the first 2 months of the season where we thought, well, they probably deserved a better fate. They played a decent game, but they still lost. And we've been talking about that for a long time. So tonight was a game that they won where Tampa Bay is probably saying to themselves, well, we didn't play that badly tonight. We probably could have won that game. But the Canadiens came up big when it counted. They may not have brought their best game on a Tuesday night in January after two emotional games on the weekend, but they brought enough to win. They brought enough to win a home game. They brought enough to win in regulation, right? They didn't give Tampa Bay that extra point for the overtime. Tampa Bay would have been very happy to get that game to overtime, right? A road game, you get that extra point, or you get that point for overtime. They would have loved to do that, but the Canadiens, with 3 minutes left, were able to take that away from them. So, just quickly, guys, before we move on, if you haven't done so yet, hit the thumbs up. We have. There are 13 of you watching right now, and we only have 5 thumbs up. The thumbs up button is just here below the screen. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and come on in. We'd love to have you. If you're over there on TikTok, come on over here to YouTube. Join us. Get in the comments. Get in the comment section, and get into the conversation. We're going to stay here probably for about an hour and a half tonight, and we're going to talk about the game. We'll talk about the game. We'll talk about the Canadiens. We'll go through the scoreboard together. We'll go through the A team together, and then we'll go through our report card. But all the way through, we'll be answering your questions. If you have questions, if you have comments, love to talk to you about it. So keep those thumbs up coming, guys. I appreciate it. That's awesome. And also, like I said, if you're not subscribed yet, YouTube says that only 35% of the people who watch the show are subscribed. So if you're watching live or if you're watching on a replay, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and help us grow the Recliner Sports family, the community here. We're trying to build a place where you guys can come after the games to have a chat about the game, have a chat about the Canadiens. We're also getting ready to launch Habs Therapy Day. Probably going to be next Wednesday will be the premiere of Habs Therapy Day. That's going to be more of it'll be a live show, but it won't be around a game. It'll be sort of a standalone show where we deal with various issues involving the Canadiens and give you guys an opportunity to have your say, and we'll do that. It'll probably be a Wednesday show. I'm kind of conscious of not stepping on Coach Frenchie's toes because he does shows on Wednesday as well, so I may do it earlier in the evening than he does. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. He does shows a lot of nights, so it's kind of hard to find a night where he's not doing something. So anyhow, that's the pitch. So if you're not subscribed yet, please do so. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers. I'm not sure what we're at now. What are we at right now? We're at 275 or 274 subscribers. Yeah. So let's build on that. So if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and give us some thumbs up. Let's see if we can break a record for thumbs up tonight, guys. Let's see if we can get more than usual. So anyways, I apologize for taking all that time. Relax, take. The thing I dislike about Monty, his blocker, he has a terrible habit of trying to reach out and poke at the puck with his blocker hand, beach ball size hole when he does it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty technical and specific issue. I'm not going to argue with you because I'm not a goalie expert by any means. It's not something that I've noticed. I mean, I watch the games quite closely. I'm not a goalie technician by any means, but I do understand the game. It's not something that stands out to me. It's not something that I've seen as a liability for him. But yeah, again, for me, what I really like about Montembeault is that, while he is fully capable of having a stinker, for the most part, he keeps the team in the game. He gives them an opportunity to win on most nights. He makes more, saves above expected are normally quite high with Montembeault. He was one of the better goalies in the league last year in that number. So I'm not unhappy with Montembeault, regardless of your concerns about his blocker. The A team: Line, Monty, Evans, Slavkovsky. 2 out of 4. 2 out of 4, Claude. Entertap, you are also 2 out of 4. It's all good, Jordan. I appreciate your comments. Your comments are typically smart and intelligent, including this one. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean it's not a smart comment. But I like the intelligent conversation that it generates. Yeah, we'll do that next time, Entertap. Basically what I do is you could send me the list. You could text it to me, sort of right around the end of the game, and I could do something up. You don't have to if you want to, whatever. Thank you, Owen. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming by. I think you were a regular over on TikTok back in the day as well. I recognize the name, I think. But you don't have to be a Habs fan to be here. Anybody's welcome, and we're happy to talk about. I think you're a Leafs fan. If you want to talk about the Leafs, then we can do that too. We can do that too. If you're here for intelligent hockey conversation, you are more than welcome. And that goes for all of you guys over there. There are 7 people over here. There is William, Drew, Big Tuna. I see Tovoj is there. Tovoj is always good for really good conversation too. Why don't you come and join us over on on YouTube, Tovoj. Come on over and join us over here. Let's get some of those great comments that you do over in TikTok. Let's see if you can do them over on YouTube as well. Breaking news, Justin Barron just scored for Nashville. Okay, I don't have the Nashville game on here, but I could very well flip it on. I didn't want to do that. I did the wrong button. Oh, you're an Oilers fan. Okay, my apologies, Owen. I like you even more. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I guess if there's a bit of a break in the comments here, guys, we got 18 people in the room. Let's get those thumbs up going. I did see Demidov's goal today. You guys want to see it? Do you guys want to see Demidov's goal today? Let's see if I can do this without effing it up. Can I do that? And then can I do... How do I do this? 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 I always screw this up. Choose a file. I think I can do this, guys. I think I might get it right. Might take me a second. My computer is really slow. I use an old computer to do my my lives on. So as a result, it's kind of slow on certain things. It does really good with the eCam, but I try not to run a lot of other things on it. I have my laptop here in case I have to look anything up during the game, but I think we can definitely show you the recording of the Demidov goal and the assist if you want to. I think this should work. All right, guys, let's see. Let's have a look. Ready? We'll publish that, and then we'll go here. Let's have a look at. We can have a look at his assist as well, guys. If you're inclined, give me a second again. So that's the goal. Pretty impressive. His 16th of the year, I believe. He now has 37 points on the season. He is 5 behind Kaprizov for the most goals by a 19-year-old in the KHL. So this is the assist. So yeah, that's That's Ivan Demidov today. So he finished, for those of you who don't know already, he finished the game with a goal and an assist. Ska won 5-2, I think, with an empty netter. So pretty impressive game for Mr. Demidov. That's 5 points in his last 2 games. I believe he has 15 points in his last 10. He's gotten right around 20 minutes ice time in each of the last 2 games. So things are looking up for Ivan Demidov and his progress over in the the Quebec League, in the KHL. So yeah, keep watching. I'm not sure when his next game is. It's probably tomorrow, maybe, or no, the day after, something like that. So yeah, I can't wait to see him either, Umeki. I think it's going to be really, really fun to see him and Hudson, and I think we're in for a fun time as a fan base. I think we're in for a fun time. Norco for life, welcome. I think you're new here. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. This early in their rebuild, I'm impressed in the growth, but they also have some great potential coming up in a few years. Yeah, it's a pretty good assessment, Norco for life. It is a rebuild. The rebuild is still ongoing, but the growth has been impressive. I think the growth kind of, people were kind of worried about the growth, I think, earlier in the year. It stagnated a little bit, maybe. Maybe not stagnated, but people were certainly concerned about it because it wasn't, showing results on the ice, which, perhaps was to be expected. But it just seems to have clicked very quickly for them, right? They've been learning lessons for a long time, and they're finally being able to put those lessons into practice. And it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to watch. And there is, like you say, Norco for life, there's a lot coming up. Demidov is going to be the future of the Canadiens, in your opinion? Yeah, I think that's probably partly true, Owen. I think there's going to be a few guys who are going to be the future of the Canadiens in the next little while. Monty looked shaky in the first and second, but boy, did he recover well in the third. I give him tons of credit for that. Okay, I didn't see the shakiness in the first and second. I thought he played a pretty solid game throughout. Obviously, the third period stands out, and he was better in the third period. But I'm not. Hey, Southern Canuck Sports Card, you know nothing about hockey. Sorry. Sorry, guys. I just had to address a comment on TikTok. I don't typically address a comment on TikTok. He says, I'm sorry, but the Doc experiment has to end. The guy is minus 26 on the year. So does anybody want to tell Mr. Southern Canuck Sports Cards why his opinion on that is really, really uninformed and stupid? What do we think? Robbie in the living room, sitting here today. The Canadiens are second in the wild card, 1 point out of third in the Atlantic. If you were the GM, would you be looking to add depth, or would you consider selling? If adding, what would you add? I don't think the Canadiens are going to look to make any real big moves, Robbie. I don't see them. They're in a rebuild. They understand they're in a rebuild. They're not going to deviate from the rebuild because of the success that they're having now. The success in a rebuild happens organically. You can't rush a rebuild. You don't speed up a rebuild. You don't go out and sign a big name free agent in an effort to, sneak into the playoffs, right? This team will make the playoffs when it's ready to make the playoffs, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after that. I mean, I hopefully it's not going to be the year after that. But again, making the playoffs is not the goal for this team. The goal for this team is to win the Stanley Cup. So, there are a lot of teams around the NHL that have ruined themselves by trying to come out of the rebuild before it was the right time to do that. See Detroit, see Toronto. Toronto never really rebuilt in the first place, but again, they got a couple of good players. See New York. They got a couple of, Toronto did a really good job drafting, and they got some real superstars on their team. And they took that as a sign that they could stop implementing smart managerial practices, and they went out to try and, to win right away. And, all they needed to do was just to let it continue to progress, let it to continue to build. Detroit, right? Detroit thought, oh, we're getting close to the playoffs here. We'll go out and sign a bunch of free agent veterans to push us over the edge. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah, you might make the playoffs, but you're just going to be stuck in that sort of mediocrity of being a team that barely makes the playoffs and loses in the first round or doesn't make the playoffs or whatever. It's just there's not interested. Oh, you're Tovoj. Okay, Norco for life. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming, man. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. But yeah, Robbie, just to get back to your question, it's a great question. So I appreciate the question. But I really don't think that they're going to do much. Perhaps there's going to be a couple of the veterans that move on, especially the ones whose contracts are expiring. But I don't think you're going to see Kent Hughes make a huge effort to, to make a big move. If the right guy and the right fit comes along, and what I mean by the right fit, like a younger player, somebody under the age of 26 or 27, comes along, then maybe they make that move. But I don't think you're going to see them go out to get any big name free agents. I don't see that. Jordan, we would need to give Fowler at least 50 games, and I don't think we will. Question for Devin. Goal prediction. Next 3 Calder Trophy winners will be Hudson, Demidov, and Fowler. And so Jordan says we need to give him at least 50 games, and I don't think we will. It's hard for a goalie to win Rookie of the Year. It's hard for a goalie to win Rookie of the Year because if a goalie wants to win Rookie, I think this is part of what Jordan is saying is for a goalie to win Rookie of the Year, he's going to have to play a pretty significant role on a team. And typically, if you're developing a goalie properly, you're not putting him into a starting role right off the top. Does Jacob Fowler potentially have the ability to buck those trends? Yeah, he could. But again, it's a hard call. It's a hard call. I don't think he steps into. My sense is that he may come out of Boston College this year and join Laval towards the end of the season, and then probably play next year in Laval, and then the year after that, you're suggesting that he might be Rookie of the Year. That's tight. I don't know. We'll see. It should be interesting. I'd love to see it, and it'll be fun to watch. Jordan has a question. How many games would be a good number for Dobesh? I think at this stage, for me, you're playing Dobesh 1 out of every 4 games, right? You're playing Montembeault 3 and you're playing Dobesh 1. Obviously, it revolves around, the back-to-backs and things like that. And when the workload gets heavy on Montembeault, you kind of have to step in there. But again, for me, I think it's about. It's about consistency for Dobesh right now. It's about, giving him an experience that, he can use to improve, to get better, to work his way into being a better goalie and a goalie who someday can take on a bigger workload. But right now, I don't think that I compare it to I don't know if you guys are gamblers, but so Dobesh has played great right now, right? He's 5 games. He looks really, really good. But, so if you're at the casino and you're playing blackjack and you sit down to a $5 table, right, and you sit down and things are going great, you win you win a bunch of hands in a row, you win maybe 6 out of 7 hands, 7 out of 8 hands, and then you're like, oh man, things are going awesome. And you take your money and you go over to the $50 a hand table and you go over there because you're playing so great and everything's going awesome, and you figure I got to go over there because I want to make more money, and you go over there and you lose 2 hands in a row and all your money's gone. Right? So that's kind of what Dobesh is doing great at the current pace. Let's just keep it that way. Let's let him build and let him grow on that. There's no need to sort of try and take things to the next level. So again, I appreciate that's not a direct response to your question, Jordan, but the direct response to your question is I think that for now, I think you look at playing him, once every 4 games. I think that's a good mix for him. So, if that's over a full season, what's 1 out of every 4 games in a full season? It's 20 games, 21, 22 games. Obviously, you want a young goalie to have more workload. That's sort of the fine line you sometimes have to walk when you're talking about young goaltenders is, you want them to play, but you also don't want to rush them into a situation that's not tenable for them, right? So is it better for Dobesh to play 20, 21, 22, 23 games at the NHL level, or is it better for him to play 50, 55 games, down in the AHL? I don't know the answer to that. I don't have an answer to that. And again, he's obviously got 2 seasons under his belt down in Laval, or season and a half. Season and a half. And so is he ready to go on to that next stage? And how do you keep him engaged while he's playing only 1 out of every 4 games? You don't want him to, you want to develop him properly. And I think you can run the risk of ruining his development by playing him too much too early. But I think you can also ruin him if you leave him on the bench and he doesn't get the ice time. So I think that also has a lot to do with the way that you coach him between games, right? The training that he gets between games, the coaching, all that kind of stuff. So, when was the last time a goalie won the Calder? I have Wolf in the final 3, but speaking for Fowler, if he pans out. I don't know who the last goalie to win the Calder is, but we can probably look it up pretty quickly. Calder Trophy goalie. Somebody may have already answered it in the comments down the piece there a little bit. Goalies that have won the Calder Trophy. The last to win the Calder Trophy, is that right? Steve Mason for Columbus back in 08-09. Andrew Raycroft, Evgeny Nabokov, Martin Brodeur, Ed Belfour, Tom Barrasso, Ken Dryden, Tony Esposito, Roger Crozier, Glenn Hall, Gump Worsley, Terry Sawchuk, Jack Gelano, Frank McCool, Frank Brimsick, and Mike Caracas. That looks like it's the list, guys. I think that's right. That's from StatMuse. Calder Trophy winners. Get out of there. Leave that alone. Steve Mason, 28-09. He finished the season with 33 wins, 20 losses. I hate goalie wins and losses is not a goalie set. 229 goals against average, 916 save percentage. So there's your answer. What's going on, Pete? Welcome. Look at Doc since Christmas break. Different player than first half when coming off an injury. Yes, Billy D. Why can't Mr. Canucks hockey cards or whatever his name was, why can't he figure that out? Not as smart as you are. Billy D. If you're over here on TikTok, guys, come on over to YouTube. Watch the show over here. Doc experiment at second center is still to be determined. Right now, I'm not in the happiest place, but that's offset by Doc needing to knock off some rust. I don't know. Again, I think you and I disagree on this. We've had the conversation before. I won't get into it again, Jordan. But I think if you pay attention and you look closely, you'll see the signs that Kirby Doc is going to be just fine. Armia may go at the deadline. I think he's making a case for staying right now. Whether that case is successfully made at the end of the day, I don't know. I think that there's a chance that Evans goes at the deadline if they can't get him signed. I think they'll look to move him. There's a chance that Savard goes at the deadline. Dvorak. So, yeah. Again, those are the kind of moves I would expect at the deadline. Moves that are intended to, move on from some veteran players whose contracts are going to expire, and rather than, have them walk away for nothing, you try to get something for them on the way out the door. Again, I don't think that the world will end either way with any of those guys, and I don't think it's a matter of Montreal looking to try and go out and, add pieces or add, big pieces. Impatience is the nemesis of any good rebuild. Have to build for sustainability for years while working towards a Stanley Cup. I agree completely. Entertap, you and I think, are on the same page as far as the rebuild is concerned. The only difference I think that you and I have with respect to the rebuild is, to me, the rebuild never ends. I know some people might think that's crazy. The rebuild never ends, right? I think, if the Canadiens win the Stanley Cup in 5 years from now, do you think Kent Hughes wakes up the next morning and says, okay, guys, we won the Stanley Cup, the rebuild's over, we're going to get rid of all of our young players, and we're going to start signing, 30-year-old free agents, right? The philosophies of a rebuild, the things that you do in a rebuild are just good managerial practices, right? And they're things that any team should be doing at any time, whether you're in a rebuild or not, right? You shouldn't be out signing. You shouldn't be out trying to build your team through the free agency market. It doesn't work. Like historically, it doesn't work. I mean, it rarely works, right? And if you're out there thinking that you're going to win a Stanley Cup by going out and signing big name free agents, not going to happen. All good, Robbie. I appreciate it, and I thank you for coming. If you're not following, please subscribe. We're trying to grow our community here. If you enjoy this kind of conversation, then we'd love to have you. Tired of people saying Hughes should go for Mikko. I'm also very tired of that. Recently there was a Montreal Canadiens columnist who I highly respect, who made the ridiculous suggestion that the Canadiens should try and trade 2 first-round draft picks and two secondary prospects, of which he included Owen Beck and Logan Mailloux, in return for Sidney Crosby. So this guy, who I highly respect, because I think he's a good columnist and generally he understands the rebuild quite well, suggests that the Canadiens would give up 2 first-round draft picks. Again, he did put the condition on the draft picks that if for some reason the draft picks are top 10 draft picks, then no, you don't do it. But again, I mean, the idea that you're going to try and get Sidney Crosby for 2 years, and give away 4 premium assets is absurd to me. So Mikko Rantanen and Sidney Crosby. Mikko Rantanen actually makes more sense if you want to say that. But I mean, I get the allure of Sidney Crosby. I get the allure of the example that he could set for the young players as far as being a winner and his work ethic and all that kind of stuff. 2 years of Sidney Crosby would have an enormous benefit on this young group. So it's not a matter of me not wanting Sidney Crosby. It's just like you're not giving up anything. You're not giving up your prospects for that. You're not giving up Owen Beck. You're not giving up Logan Mailloux. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Appreciate it, Norco. Appreciate it. I agree with you, Norco. They are making the right moves. I agree with you. He's going to be a Dobesh caliber Monty. He's not going to be a Dobesh caliber Monty. I don't know what that means, Frank. Sorry, man. Your goaltender is as good as your defense, except if your Price. Well, I would venture to say that Carey Price would have been even better if he had a high quality defense in front of him, or a better defense in front of him. Jacob Fowler is so young. There's no point in even guessing yet. I agree. Oh, Tovo, you changed your name. I got it. I agree on Dobesh games too. He's a young lad. He's good, but we don't want to burn him out. Again, I agree with that as well. I think you make a good point about all prospects, Jacob. Right? We can get excited about them, and that's fine. We should get excited about them, but at the same time, you're going to how do I put this? You're going to set yourself up for disappointment if you put a high level expectations on these prospects, right? Not all prospects succeed. Even the ones that look like they're going to succeed, some of them don't. We can say that Ivan Demidov looks incredible in the KHL and he's a no doubter. There's no way in the world he's not going to be a superstar in the NHL and whatever. But it could happen. It wouldn't be the first time it happened, right? There've been guys who people have felt that way about before, and they just don't make the transition from one league to the next, right? They just they don't. And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not going to say that it's likely to happen, but it's possible, right? Between all of these prospects that the Canadiens have coming up the pipe, it's very possible that some of them aren't going to make it, and So again, it's great to get excited, and it's great to think, oh, this guy's awesome. I can't wait to see him play. I'm excited about him. But at the end of the day, if you've already got him penciled in on the first line, and for 50 goals and 120 points before he's played a single game in the NHL, give your head a shake, because that might not happen, and you're going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. and you're going to find a way. You're going to be upset and try and blame somebody for it. And the reality is that you put too high of an expectation on a player who wasn't able to meet those expectations. If Doc keeps evolving as he is, we have to keep him. I have no problem with Kirby Doc. I like Kirby Doc. He's a good hockey player. He's going to be fine as the second center on this team. Yes, somebody could come in and be better than him. Michael Hage might be better than him. We'll see. Again, it's a long ways off. But at the end of the day, I'm not concerned about having Kirby Doc as the second line center. I think he's just fine. I mean, look at the team right now, right? The team is playing, the team is only is barely in a wild card spot, but the way they've played in the last 6 weeks or the last 5 weeks, they're one of the best teams in the league, and that's with Kirby Doc as their second line center. So they're capable of doing these things with Kirby Doc as their second line center. So the suggestion that Kirby Doc, you're not sold on him, or he's not the man for the job, or the Kirby Doc experiment's over, they have been one of the best teams in the NHL with Kirby Doc as their second line center. Now, I get that it's a short sample size, but it shows you that it's possible. He's capable of it. I'm sorry, but get as far as you can year after year. Win, get there. I'm sorry, but get as far as you can year after year. Win, get there. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Pete. Sorry, man. Doc will be fine. I just don't know if he'll be a 2C or a winger. My initial thought is winger. Yeah, again, I think in the NHL these days you can have, like, if Doc's on the second line with Newhook, and Newhook can take faceoffs, then you can sort of mix and match that, right? The NHL, being a winger, being a forward isn't as strict a thing as people think it is, right? You can let Newhook take the faceoffs, but then once the play starts, you can play more of a centerman role. Demidov apparently can play center as well. I think, in a perfect world, you probably have a right-handed and a left-handed centerman on every one of your lines, right? I mean, again, that's, highly unlikely to happen, but again, that's a perfect world, right? If you've got a really, really talented team and, you can actually, that's what you would want. You would want to have a right hand, so it's not going to happen, but again, I'm not concerned about Kirby Doc. Montreal was bottom of the roster last year. This year we're in a wild card spot. They're making progress, but we don't want to have him burnt out. We also want the rest of the team to grow too. Steve Mason, yes, Steve Mason, 66 games played. Is that what it was? He was 33-20. We know that. He played 61 games played that year. In fact, not 66. I currently live in Calgary, and after hearing a Flames fan wanting Wolf last season and the season before, I think that took a great approach and hope the Habs continue with the same approach, considering Wolf's success. Patience is a virtue, right? Patience is a virtue everywhere, but it certainly is a virtue if you're a GM of an NHL hockey team. Guys, we're never going to get to the scoreboard at this rate. You guys are firing lots of questions. I love it. Lots of questions and comments. Damn big win for the Habs, helping the Leafs and themselves. Yes. Well, again, I don't know that. I mean, the Canadiens are just playing hockey right now, right? The playoffs are not the ultimate goal for the Canadiens. The ultimate goal for the Canadiens is to play well, to be a good team, to continue to improve. If that means they make the playoffs, then great. If that means they win games, great. If that means they help the Toronto Maple Leafs, great. Doesn't really matter. Raycroft was not the last goalie enter tap. It was Steve Mason. Raycroft won it a few years before that. Then Mason won it. Mason won it in 08-09. Raycroft won it in 03-04. Jake Evans is one of the best penalty killers in the league. You are correct, Jordan. You are correct. He is. He is a very, very good penalty killer. He will be a very big contributor to the Montreal Canadiens if he stays with the team, and hopefully he does. I hope he does. And welcome, by the way, Jordan. I haven't seen you here before. I appreciate you coming by. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We need to keep Dvorak till this summer. He's the best, in my opinion, in the league. Oh, so we need to keep. So that's two different comments, Pete. Evans, Marty St. Louis chemistry is a win-win. All these things, I agree with all of that. And that's a good point, Pete. Evans and MSL's chemistry, Marty St. Louis chemistry with Evans. That's a big part of his decision whether or not to go somewhere else as a free agent, right? I talked about this in a previous show. I don't know if it was on here or if it was on on with Coach on Habs Nation Live, but for Jake Evans, the benefit of playing in Montreal is a huge one, right? The coaching staff knows him. They know what he's capable of. They know what he's not capable of. They know what kind of situations to put him in to succeed. They know, all of this stuff. Like if he goes, let's say he goes and signs with Nashville. I'm just making up a name of a team. Let's go. He goes and signs with Nashville, and he goes to Nashville, and somehow coming out of training camp, the coach decides, well, you know what? You can put the puck in the net a little bit. We saw you guys last year. We're going to put you on the second line. You're going to be our second line center. That's a position that's not a recipe for success for Jake Evans. So that coach who knows very little about Jake Evans, especially compared to Marty St. Louis and the rest of the Canadiens coaching staff, that coach just, from, on the basis of one preseason says, well, I'm going to put you on the second line. Well, then all of a sudden Jake Evans starts to not play that well. He's still killing penalties and he's good there, but he's not producing. He's only got 5 or 6 goals through the first, 25, 30, 40 games of the year. Now the fans are starting to say, what's going on with this Jake Evans? He's not really that good. And he's only, you know what I mean? And that's something that can kill a player. Whereas if he stays in Montreal, they know that his value is as a fourth liner. They know his value is as a bottom 6 player. They know what he can do. They know what he can't do, and they're going to keep their expectations, and they're going to keep him in the right spot. I'm dreaming for a Canadian team winning the Cup. Keep in mind, Montreal will knock off the Leafs. Well, we'll see, Pete. I don't really care about knocking off the Leafs. I mean, if we win the Cup, I don't care who it's against. But it is what it is. I'm not into that whole we hate the Leafs, and just to me, it's the Leafs have a really good team. They're not built for the playoffs. I think that they're too top heavy as far as their best players getting paid way too much money. And I think it's going to be a hard thing for them to win a Stanley Cup. But at the same time, I like their players. I think they're fun. They're exciting to watch. And I would love to see the Toronto Maple Leafs go on a Stanley Cup run. I think it would be really, really fun to watch. Do you think the Habs could be soft buyers at the deadline? By soft buyers, I mean trading mostly for guys with 2+ years left on their contract. Younger guys, maybe Aiden. Maybe younger guys. I don't see them going after any UFAs. To be honest with you, I really don't. And I don't see them going after guys with who are older than 30. I don't think I think that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon are committed to building this team from within. And obviously, the Patrick Laine situation presented itself to them, and he's 26, or he was 26 at the time. I think he's 27 now. That made some sense because of his age and because of the upside of a player like that, which obviously they did it right. But again, I think even that is something that I don't think you'll see unless the absolutely perfect scenario presents itself. The Carrier move was kind of, something they did without really having to give up anything. Same with the Laine thing. They didn't have to give up anything to get Laine. So, Devin is becoming more of a grinder now. Winger is where he belongs. I think you're talking about Doc. Winger is where he belongs. I mean, I don't know. I don't agree. I think he's capable of being a center. But again, he'll end up where he belongs. Thank you, Tovoj. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming by. Give us thumbs up, guys. If you haven't thumbs up yet, we've got 12 people in here. We're going to go to the scoreboard real fast here, guys. I'm sort of growing a little bit frustrated with my scoreboard. I think I might change it up here. And I'll tell you why. I got talked about it a minute ago. I think some of the stats that I'm citing here, the high danger scoring chances and the expected goals that I'm relying on natural stat trick for, are just they're not accurate. They're not accurate, and so I don't know why I still cite them According to Natural Stat Trick, the Canadiens were out-chanced, high-danger scoring chances, 21-4 tonight, and 10-0 in the third period. I get that that the Lightning were probably the stronger team in the third period. I get that Sam Montembeault saved the Canadiens' bacon in the third period. But as far as the high danger scoring chances being 10-0 in the third period and 21-4 for the entire game, I think that's just stupid. And I don't think it's accurate. I mean, I'll go back and check. Maybe they've amended it now since the game's over. No, they haven't. So they still have it at 21-4. I think that's just. I think your stats. Your stats lose credibility when you have stats like that. But in any event, let's get to the game itself. The Canadiens, as there's been a little bit of their habit of late, they get down early. They go down 2 goals in this one, right? They don't really come out firing in the first period. It looks like Tampa is ready to go, despite the fact that they lost last night to Toronto. They don't look tired. They're skating. They're moving. They look really good in the first period. And the Canadiens are having a little bit of trouble keeping up with them in that first period. Nikita Kucherov scores at the 14:20 mark. It's a goal from Cirelli and Lilleberg. Pardon me. I got to do this right. And it gives them a 1-0 lead. Kucherov dumps the puck into the zone. It's kind of a weird play. Instead of dumping it in the zone, Kucherov kind of flipped it in the zone, and when it landed, it kind of landed softly, and Gouli turned as if the puck was going to go into the corner. But little did he know, the puck was sort of right behind him, almost in his skates, and he didn't really know it was there. Cirelli came in, swooped in and grabbed the puck. Gouli figured it out sort of just in time, and he kind of slapped the puck away from Cirelli. But when he did so, the puck went directly to Nikita Kucherov, and Nikita Kucherov buried it. 1-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was a score after 1. Again, the shots were 11-5 in that period. The high danger scoring chances were 7-3, if you believe Natural Stat Trick, which I don't. And the expected goals were 1.5 to 1.1. Second period, Tampa continues to put the heat on, right? They come out early in the period, 2:45 in. Jake Gensel scores from Esamont. There's a bit of a scrambled face-off between Gensel and I think it was Jake Evans. I'm not sure exactly who it was. The puck kind of sits there for a minute. Nobody can really get their hands on it. Esamont ends up with the puck behind the net. He tries to do a wraparound, which he isn't able to do, but when he does, the puck sort of comes across the crease, and Jake Gensel is sort of standing there, Johnny on the spot, and he puts the puck in the net. The Ottawa Senators are they're getting into greasy plays every single night. Like, what is going on with them? I don't think they're gonna win if they continue to try and keep that up. They're a team who can be taken advantage of by playing on their emotions. So, if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'm watching the Ottawa Senators very closely right now, and I'm seeing a team that, if you get under their skin a little bit, you can really get them off their game. They lose 5-0 to the Rangers tonight. So, anyways, Gensel from Esamont at 2:45. It's 2-0, and it's not looking great for Montreal. My question of whether or not they could show up every night, whether they could show up on a Tuesday in the middle of January for, I won't say it was a meaningless game, but it's definitely like one of those, in baseball you call it the dog days of summer, right? So it's the dog days of winter where you're sort of in the middle of the season and, the slog is starting to get to you. You're playing night in, night out, and it's starting to get you. And it looked like maybe they weren't going to show up tonight. Maybe tonight was going to be a game that they took off and they're going to take an L. But that wasn't the case. They come right back. 5:32 power play goal from Slavkovsky, Laine and Hudson. It's a power play. The Canadiens are moving the puck quite well. Lane Hudson gets the puck at the point. He finds Laine along the left-hand wall. Instead of shooting the puck, Laine finds Slavkovsky, who's standing, down low on the goal line at the side of the net. And Vasilevsky does sort of that RVH, whatever they call it, where you kind of hug the post and whatever. And Slavkovsky finds a hole. There's a little hole sort of between the bottom of his elbow and his hip, kind of right there. And Slavkovsky finds that hole and he puts it through and he scores a goal. And again, I'm not a goalie expert, and maybe if there's any goalie experts in there, they can tell me a little bit. To me, that RVH looked a little bit lazy, right? Instead of being up in the RVH, Vasilevsky was down in that RVH. And because he was down, slouched kind of, it created that little gap just on the side of his hip. And Slavkovsky found it, scored his 7th of the year, 2-1 at that point. Very shortly after, about 2 minutes later, the Canadiens are still feeling the momentum from that first goal. They've got the puck in the Tampa Bay zone for a prolonged period of time. It's the second line. They're moving the puck around really, really well. They're playing keep away. They're putting on pressure. They're in the O zone, and because there's so much pressure, Tampa Bay's defensive shape is starting. They play they play very similar to the Canadiens, right? They play that sort of that hybrid defensive style, and they're always trying to put pressure on the puck. And because the pressure, the Canadiens are having prolonged pressure in their zone. They're losing a little bit of their shape a little bit, and so Newhook finds a spot. He loses his defender and finds a spot on the high slot. Patrick Laine finds him. He receives the puck. There's a bit of a scramble in front of the net. Kirby Dach gets a scoring chance. The puck squirts out to Laine, and he spots Newhook in the high slot. And Newhook just buries one, right? He just buries one high on Vasilevsky, and he beats him. And the score is tied at 2. And then at the end of the second period, you got Evans from Armia at 17:44. Evans wins the draw back to Carrier. Carrier moves the puck up to the neutral zone. Yoel Armia gets the puck in the neutral zone. He skates it into the offensive zone. He draws the defenders sort of towards him, and when the defenders come to him, he feeds the puck over to Jake Evans, who takes a one-timer. He actually fans on it, and because he fanned on it, it was a bit of a floater, and the floater beats Vasilevsky. It fooled him. That was at 17:44 of the third period. I think I might have said that was at 17:44 of the second period. It was at 17:44 of the third period. Obviously, that's the game-winning goal. 3-2, Montreal. Game over. So that's the scoring for tonight. Again, 35-22 shots on goal. Not ideal. I think those high-danger scoring chances are way overblown. I don't think that's quite accurate. 4.6 to 3.3, I think is indicative that Tampa Bay probably probably carried the play a little bit. But again, it doesn't matter. All those other numbers mean absolutely nothing. The only number that matters is the number on the scoreboard, and the number on the scoreboard was 3-2. So again, a good game for Montreal. I thought they weathered the storm. Again, another winning habit that we've talked about in the past. They took advantage of their opportunities tonight. They didn't have a ton of opportunities. Certainly, if you listen to Natural Stat Trick, but the ones they did get, they took advantage of. So let's get back to the comments here, guys. I hope the Leafs win it. Any Canadian team, I hope they win the Cup, but not Toronto, Waha, or Boston. It is what it is. Again, I just think that it would be a really exciting story for hockey if the Toronto Maple Leafs won the Cup, right? I mean, I don't hate the Toronto Maple Leafs the way everybody thinks I should as a Montreal Canadiens fan. For me, I like their players. I like the guys they have. And for me, the idea of a Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup run, assuming that the Canadiens weren't part of it and weren't the ones who were the victims of it, it kind of excites me. I think it would be fun to watch. Sens offense has been horrible. I always loved Newhook, even when he was on the Avs. The Sens offense has been not great, but what I'm finding with the Sens is that they don't have a lot of direction. Pardon my French, but Brady Tkachuk is a terrible captain. Like I know that there's Ottawa people out there, if they heard me say that, I think he's a bad captain. I think he gets too emotional on the ice. I think he puts his own, feelings ahead of what's best for the team. He goes out there on a regular basis and puts his team in bad spots because he can't control himself. I don't think he's a good captain. I've never liked Claude Giroux. I think he's been overrated his entire career. Say what you want about Tim Stützle. He's a fantastic offensive player. His defense has been better this year. But again, he's another guy who, comes off as a little bit selfish to me. Their defense, I thought Thomas Chabot was going to be a superstar in the NHL. He's a very good defenseman, but he's not great. Sanderson is not. I mean, again, Ottawa fans will lose their mind if there's any of you in here. I apologize, but Sanderson ain't all that. So, I think they have a good team. They don't have a good enough team, and I also am not a big fan of their of the way they've managed that team over the years. So, Muck says, "What do you ask me?" Montreal D. Pete Martin. Montreal D. I don't understand what your question is, Montreal D. I don't know what you mean by that, Pete Martin. Wouldn't you say relying on weathering the storm is worse than having a decisive win? Wouldn't you say that relying on weathering the storm is worse than having a decisive win? Not worse, Muck. Not worse. I mean, you're not going to get decisive wins every night, right? There are good teams in the NHL. So at some point during most games, the other team is going to put pressure on you guys on your team, right? You're not going to walk in and from the first minute of the game to the 60th minute of the game you're going to just be dominant and decisive. There's going to come a time in the game where the other team puts the heat on, and you're going to have to respond to that, and you're going to have to weather that storm. I mean, in a perfect world, your team would be so awesome that you just go out there and dominate everybody from minute 1 to minute 60, and you win every game 8-0, and that'd be awesome. Like the old World Juniors, right? The Canadian Team Canada would go to the World Juniors and they'd win every game by 12-0 and whatever. But that's not reality in the NHL. The reality in the NHL is that everybody's got a good team, and that there's gonna come a time in every game where you're gonna have to face a barrage, and you're gonna the question's gonna be how well can you weather that storm, and how well can you come out the other side, right? Because it just doesn't. The games where the other team puts up no fight whatsoever are few and far between. How did the Habs defense do tonight? I thought they did well. I thought they did pretty well. I thought defensively the Canadiens was decent. They have come a long way, as Frank says. I think they're pretty good from number 1 to number 6 right now. The Montreal Canadiens defensive core is pretty solid. When David Savard and Arbor Xhekaj are your bottom pairing defense, I think you're doing pretty good. But how about the A team, guys? What are your thoughts on the A team? Who do you have for your A team tonight, guys? We had a couple guesses earlier, and we're going to do the A team right now. So there you have it, guys. You've got Laine, Arbor Xhekaj, David Savard, and Samuel Montembeault. Those are my members of the A team. I thought Patrick Laine played a great game tonight, guys. I thought he was really, really good. His underlying numbers, in addition to the eye test, I think his underlying numbers were quite strong. He had a really nice assist on the Newhook goal. What did he finish with? How many shots did he have? 3 shots on goal. 2 assists tonight. Pardon me. Pardon my French. So Laine, Xhekaj, Savard. Xhekaj and Savard I thought were great tonight. I had Savard on the A team even before he did that little maneuver at the end of the game where he basically killed the last 15 seconds of the game all by himself by essentially sitting on the puck and fighting off any Tampa Bay player that came anywhere near him. Xhekaj I thought was solid, and of course Montembeault I thought had a really good game tonight as well. So I don't know if you agree with that, disagree. Let me know in the comments. The comments seem to be pretty slow right now. But again, if you think there's anybody on that list that I put on there that didn't deserve to be there, let me know. Oops, what did I just do there? Conversely, if there's anybody that you think should be on the list that I didn't include, then let me know that too. I welcome your comments. I welcome your feedback. One of the great things about having a team that's playing well is that it's a lot harder to make a team like this. It's a lot harder to pick 4 guys out of the whole team when they're playing well. Monty stole the game. I don't know if I would say that Monty stole the game. He obviously made the saves that needed to be made in the third period. But if it wasn't for Jake Evans, there's other people who contributed as well. The Sens remind me of the Islanders, except slightly better personnel. Yeah, I think they have significantly better personnel, Muck. I just don't think that they have much leadership. I don't think that they have much leadership on the ice or behind the bench. I just don't think there's much guidance there for those young players. Gooley is better than Sanderson, and he was signed for way cheaper. That may turn out to be the case, Pila White. I think the potential. I think Gooley's upside is better than Sanderson is right now. Sanderson obviously can be better than he is right now. That's why I say he's underachieving. Sanderson is capable of better than what we're seeing from him right now. And if Sanderson plays the way he's capable of, then I'm not sure that Gooley comparison works. But as of right now, Gooley is on track to surpass Sanderson. I would say. Jack Guy made a great pass. Yeah, he moves the puck really, really well. Like, people think that Arbor Jack Guy is just some cement head who fights and hits and does whatever, but he's got a good he's got a good game. He skates well. He moves the puck well. He's got a good shot, and he's learning to take the game as it comes to him and not go looking for it, which I think has been a huge benefit to his game and to his development. Pila White says Monty, Slavkovsky, Laine, and Evans. Okay. I don't agree with you, but that's okay. I thought that Evans had a good game. I don't think he was any better than Savard and Jack Guy tonight. I thought Jack Guy and Savard were fantastic tonight. I thought they were really good. Let's see. Canadiens on ice. Expected goals for percentage. Yeah, so they were first and second on the team in expected goals for tonight. Savard was 69% and Jack Guy was 65%. 6 shots. So the Canadiens were outshot tonight 35-24, but when Savard was on the ice, they outshot Tampa Bay 6-3. And when Jack Guy was on the ice, they outshot Tampa Bay 7-5. Right. So despite the fact of getting greatly outshot overall in the game, when those two guys were on the ice, the Canadiens actually had more shots and more scoring opportunities than Tampa Bay did. So in that sense, it's an easy choice for me. So we saw that what did we see? The 21-4. Were the high danger chances tonight. When Jack Guy was on the ice, the high danger chances were only 2-2, despite the fact that overall for the game, according to Natural Stat Trick, they were 21-4. So to me, I think Jack Guy typically, if he's on the A team, it's not because he did something spectacular or something that stood out. But if you look a little bit deeper and you watch his game closely, you sort of isolate on him, you see what kind of value he brings to the team and to the game. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate it. We haven't seen many shots by Jack Guy lately. I don't know if he had any shots on goal tonight. Maybe not. He's not 2 shots on goal for Jack Guy tonight. So again, that's a big number for him, right? Jack Guy, I think, has 2 things. Jack Guy, I think, has not really looking for his shot that much anymore. And also, the Montreal Canadiens have really moved away from using point shot as part of their defense. Like, their defense used to, last year even, they ran their offense quite often through the point, right? They would I think we saw like their defense last year had way more points and way more goals than they do this year. But this year they've really changed their offensive game and their offensive structure to not really rely on the point shot nearly as much. So you're not going to see that happen as much. They would much rather see the defense distribute the puck from the point than take shots from there. And that's probably something that they figured out, from the statistics that, shooting from the point isn't um, it's not a high percentage play. It's not, you're not going to get a lot of scoring opportunities from taking that shot. I think the NHL is moving towards that as well. How would I explain the Habs' incredible play of late? It's the development of what they've been working for, Muck. I said it, a couple of shows ago. This shouldn't surprise anybody. The fact that the Canadiens are playing the way they're playing right now shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention to this team. The suddenness of it all. The suddenness of it all, and the fact that it's come on, relatively quickly, might be a bit of a surprise to people. But this is exactly what the players, the coaches, and the management have been telling us is on the way. The timing of it. Again, that might be surprising, and maybe it's sooner than some people thought. But we've heard Marty St. Louis talk about all the lessons and the different skills and stuff that they've been working on. Right, like last year, they were working a lot on skills. Like they were working with Slavkovsky, and they still do. They still do that. But towards the beginning of this year, they talked about winning habits. We're learning how to win games, right? And you hear like all these little tidbits about we're learning to not do things that help the other team. We're learning to to deal with adversity, right? When the other team scores a goal, we're not going to collapse and fall apart and let them score 2 or 3 more. We're learning to to be more mature. We're learning, these are things that they've been learning, and because they were learning them early in the season and not mastering them, they were struggling. But now they're starting to get better at these things, right? They're not giving up, goals in bunches anymore. They're coming back from, when they're down in a game. Like, so instead of, falling apart when they get down by a goal or two, they're able to sort of to come back and to what's the word I'm looking for? Geez, I'm drawing a blank on the right word here. To regather themselves and to come along and to then come back in those games, right? They're not falling apart, like, and that's leadership and that's maturity, and so they're able to regather after they give up a goal. Whereas we saw early in the year, they give up a goal and then they give up another one, and then before they know it, they're down by 2 or 3 goals and the game's over. And they're losing games like that. So, we saw a little bit of that on the weekend on Saturday, right? While they, I think they certainly played well on Saturday and had a lot of opportunities. They just couldn't stem the flow of the Toronto offense. Once it got rolling, they had their own opportunities, but they, you also need to stop the other team at some point, and they just weren't able to do that. So I think, the question was, why is this happening? How do I explain it? I explain it because they're finally getting it. The comparison I've made in the past, Muck, and those who have been here before probably are tired of hearing it, but it's like learning a speech, right? Somebody hands you a speech and says, I want you to deliver this speech, in 6 months from now. Okay, well, you look at the speech and, the first thing you need to do is memorize the words, right? So you memorize the words and you practice in front of your mirror, and the reality is that, at first you're terrible, right? You can't get the words right, and you keep screwing it up, and you don't memorize the words, and you don't get it right, and whatever. But eventually you learn all the words. You get the words down pat, you get them memorized. But that doesn't mean you can deliver a good speech. Like, you just know the words. So now you got to work on, like, the inflection and the emotion, and, like, when you raise your voice and when you lower your voice, and when you do this, that, and the other thing, right? So like, you're not good at the speech yet, but you've memorized it and you've learned a couple lessons, and you can go out there and you can do the speech in front of the mirror, and it sounds okay, but it's not that great. Then you get the emotions and the inflection down, and it's pretty good, right? It sounds okay. You can give it and it sounds all right or whatever, but it's not great yet, right? It's still not great. So now you need to learn, like, the body motion, the body language, right? You got to learn when to pound on the table, or when to like punch your fist, or when to, like, the body language that goes with the speech, the hand motions, the gesturing, and all that. And so you're working on the gestures, but maybe when you're working on the gestures, maybe every once in a while you might forget a word or two, You might screw it up on the words, even though you pretty much mastered the wording and, you pretty much mastered the emotion, the inflection. But eventually, all of those lessons start to come together, right? You learn how to, you memorized it, the words, you worked on the emotions and, the inflection and all that. And then you worked on the hand motions and the gestures and the body language and all that. And then eventually, it all comes together. And now you can stand in front of a crowd and you can give your speech. Right, you give a hell of a speech, and you're good at it, and you can give that speech 9 times out of 10 times. You can give a pretty damn good speech, right? Doesn't mean you're not going to screw it up once in a while. Every once in a while, you're going to forget a word, right? You're going to mess it up or whatever. Every once in a while, you're going to make a mistake or whatever. But now you've learned those lessons, you've practiced them, you've gotten really good at them. Now you can deliver speech. The speech hasn't changed, right? The speech is the same one that they handed you on day one, but now you can turn that speech into something good. So that's kind of the comparison I make about what's going on with this team, or that's the analogy I draw. You could say the same thing about learning an instrument or whatever, but it's learning, right? You're learning, right? So when you first start learning, you look terrible. If I handed you a saxophone and said play this saxophone, you're going to sound terrible, right? But if I say here's a saxophone, go work on it for a year and come back. You're going to come back in a year and you're not going to be great at it, but you're going to be able to play it. You're going to know how to play it, right? You'll be able to, play a couple of songs and, whatever. You're not going to sound that great. But then I say, okay, well, now go away for another year and come back after that. Well, assuming you commit yourself to it and you work at it, you're going to be even better after that second year. Now you're going to sound like you're a pretty good saxophone player, right? But then if I give you another year, now you're going to sound like a hell of a good saxophone player. You're going to be able to be in a band, or you're going to be able to do that. So that's kind of, I think, what's happening with this team. It's not about it's not about them figuring it out or turning it around or becoming a better team. It's about learning. It's about developing. I agree. Jack and Savard were very good tonight. I gave it to Evans for PK work, winning goal, and long shifts. The third period winning key faceoffs and shutting down the game. Yeah, I got no issue with Evans being on it. Again, there's a number of guys that could be there. It's good. It's a team game. They got to grind together. I believe regroup is the word you may have been looking for. It is, yes. Regroup, regather. Thank you, Puck Hawk. I appreciate it. That is the word I was looking for. The refs suck. You are correct. I think the Habs are a playoff lock. Tampa has been slowing down, and the third spot is in the Atlantic is up for grabs. I don't know if I'd go as far to call them a lock. Like I said, I don't know that they're, they've got the speech, down pretty good right now, but they haven't perfected it. I think we'll probably see some steps backwards to go yet. I don't think that they're, I wouldn't call them a lock by any means. There's a lot of teams out there. We're seeing a ton of parity in the East right now. Detroit's playing well right now. Ottawa has played well, although they're up and down a little bit. Tampa Bay, I think, is capable of being pretty good. There's a lot of teams to finish ahead of in order to make the playoffs. I don't think by any means the Canadiens are a playoff lock. Marty St. Louis from the start has been probably the best coach for the Habs in front of the media since Jacques Demers and Pat Burns. Talking to the media, I think Marty St. Louis is a perfect fit for what this team wants to do right now, right? They're rebuilding. So in a rebuild, you want a coach who's a teacher, right? You don't want a John Tortorella. You don't want a guy who's going to scream and yell at your players. And, you don't want an old school dinosaur coach. You want a progressive coach. You want a coach who's going to he's going to teach. He's going to, be a bit of a player's coach. He's going to, he's going to work with the guys. He's going to be understanding that, it's a work in progress, And another big part of the rebuild, you're touching on it here, Patrick, is that the Canadiens have made a conscious effort to be more transparent with the press, right? All of their press conferences, all of their interviews after the games are all online. You can watch them on YouTube. They're available on social media. You can do all that stuff. They hired Chantal Machabé, right? They brought somebody in from the media to be their press manager, their press. Their media person, whatever you want. I don't know what her official title is. They brought somebody in who's from the media to do that, and she's brought in a more media friendly approach And that's that's part of the rebuild too, right? It's changing the perception. It's knowing that a rebuild is a difficult thing, and at some point you're going to have to sell the rebuild to the fans, and providing that transparency and being more cooperative with the press and with the media is going to make that job easier. Like if you're like the old Montreal Canadiens were very close-lipped, and you didn't get a lot from them, right? They taught all the players, to be quiet with the media and to not say very much and to be now they're like, okay, you go and be yourselves, right? Look at Uri Slavkovsky when he's interviewed, right? Like they haven't told him to to tone it down or to to not say too much or to do beyond certain things. Obviously, there's certain things that are said in the dressing room that you don't share, and there's certain things like that. And you obviously there's whatever, but they're not hiding from the media anymore the way they used to, and they're being a lot more open. There's literally a dozen things that they're doing sort of beyond roster preparation and roster building that are a huge part of the rebuild. There's a ton of stuff that they're doing, whether it's the media, whether it's the coaching staff, whether it's the management, it's everything. It's everything. So let's get to we're pretty, I think we're dying off here, guys. We got 13 people watching. We've got 16 thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you're watching over on TikTok, come on over to YouTube. The instructions are on the screen right here behind me. You can come on over and join the conversation over here. Things are slowing down a little bit. We will go to our report card for tonight. Tonight's report card is it wasn't an easy one to do tonight because there were certain parts of the game where you could argue either way. So obviously the easy ones, they allowed 3 or fewer goals. They only allowed 2 goals. They scored 3 or more. The special teams, they had 1 for 2 on the power play, and they killed all of Tampa Bay's power plays tonight. So I gave them a check mark for that. I felt like, despite the the shots on goal numbers and and all of that other stuff, I felt like they didn't make a whole lot of mistakes that helped the other team, right? They didn't shoot themselves in the foot tonight that badly, but there were some, and I don't know. I could go either way on that one. I wasn't sure. I just felt like they didn't really close things down in the neutral zone and in the defensive zone the way they have in recent games. And so in that sense, I thought that I gave them a failing grade there. I could go either way with that. Weathering the storm, we talked about it. They weathered the storm. I think the first period they weathered the storm, and then sort of at the very end of the game, they did as well. Dealing with adversity, right? Going down 2-0, not quitting, not giving up, not losing your shape, not falling apart. I thought they did really well with that. The comeback is good evidence of that. FU factor, thought there might have been a little bit more of it tonight. I felt like Tampa really took it to the Canadiens in the first period, especially physically. I thought that Montreal could have had a little bit more pushback. They certainly did more of that in the second and third period. Arbor Jacki again, throwing his body around pretty well tonight. So again, I'll give them a passing grade there. And 60 minutes. I thought they played, a good 40 minutes tonight, but I don't know that I would give them the full 60 minutes. I think they probably didn't give a full. The first period was kind of Tampa's game, and maybe the last. I didn't think that they. I didn't think they were on their game. Again, it's not about effort or anything like that. I don't think it was a matter that they didn't try. It's just I don't think they played their game for the full 60 minutes tonight. Their D zone coverage struggled for parts of the game, and I just don't think that they played their game all the way through. And so in that sense, I give them a failing grade. So there's your report card. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did I screw it up? What do you think? So let me know. Let me know what you think. Again, I think that the comments have kind of died down. There's only 9 people left in the room. I guess that's what happens on a Tuesday night. Everybody has to go to work in the morning. It's 12:30 here in Nova Scotia. That makes it 11:30 for you folks in the center of the universe, Ontario. Whoops, what did I do there? I didn't want to do that. Yeah, so that's pretty much all she wrote for the Winning Habits report card. Muck says, how do I think Demidov slots in next year? I think Laine comes off PP1. Then Cole gets back on the half wall. The short answer to your question, Muck, is I have no idea. I don't really envision a scenario where Laine comes off of power play 1. I don't see that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't see Laine coming off of power play 1. Again, one of the great things any team can have is having two. Having two strong power play units, right? We saw that from the Canadiens early on in the season when everybody was, bitching and moaning that Mike Matheson was on PP1 and Lane Hudson was on PP2. That was probably the best power play the Canadiens have had all year, with the exception of, maybe, when Patrick Laine has been on the power play. There's a huge benefit to having two strong power play units, and that is the other team can't focus their best penalty killers on one unit and shut it down. So again, for me, Demidov presents you with a good opportunity in that he is a guy who can play. He can play on that the opposite wing, right? He can play on the opposite side. From Laine, right? He's not going to have the shot from there, but again, his strength is in the distribution. So again, if you've got Laine, Demidov, again, assuming Demidov is ready and is ready to go next year, which there's no guarantee of that. I know everyone thinks there is, but there isn't. You got Laine, Demidov, Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Doc, Newhook, like those are the building blocks for two really solid power play units. And to me, if you get numbers like that, you get that many guys who can play the power play, then I think you look at sort of spreading it out a little bit, spreading the wealth a little bit, right? Because I think there's a ton of value in that. I think there's a lot more value in that than people realize. So that's it for our Winning Habits report card, guys. It looks like it might be time to finish up the show here, guys. It looks like the comments are kind of dying off. We've got a few people in the live and the show, but there's not very many. Who's in here right now? Let me see. How do I check this? We have says there's 13 people watching as of right now, but nobody's commenting. So perhaps that is as good a time as any to end the show, guys. We're about an hour and a half in. I appreciate everybody for coming. I'm not going to go back, like I said, through all the comments and thank everybody, but everybody who's been here, everybody who asked questions, everybody who participated in the comment section, thank you very much. I appreciate you all. If you're not yet subscribed, please do so. It's really easy. You just hit the button down here. If you're watching in a replay, thank you as well for that. I know that not everybody can join the show this late at night on a weekday, especially. It's not always in the cards for you guys to join the show live. But I do appreciate you guys coming back around and watching it in a replay. Same applies if you're watching in a replay. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Give us a thumbs up, right? The thumbs up don't stop just because the live's over. You can hit the thumbs up button after the show's over as well. So yeah, that's all she wrote, guys. The Montreal Canadiens, big win tonight. Again, you have to win games in different ways, right? You're not always going to win games where you dominate the other team. You're not going to come out of every game thinking, oh my God, sometimes you win when you may not have what do they, in baseball, you don't have your fastball, but you still, have to find a way to win. And tonight the Canadiens did that. They did it against a really good team. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning, and reality is that they're playing big, important games right now. Right, that's what we said at the outset of the show. That's the title of the show is, playing meaningful games. Right, they're playing meaningful games right now. There was the last 2 years, a game against Tampa Bay at the end of January would have been pretty meaningless, and it's not. Right, and the Canadiens showed that tonight. They came out and they did what they had to do, and they got another win. And they're currently in a wild card spot. Right, again, they're tied with. Let's see, they're tied right now. I know this, but I'm going to look just to be sure. They are currently tied with the Senators. They have identical records, 24-19 and 4. They've lowered their goal differential in the season down to -12. Again, that 7-3 loss to Toronto on the weekend didn't help, but that number is getting closer to being an even number. They are now they're tied with Boston, but with a game in hand, and they are 1 point ahead of Columbus and 2 points ahead of the Rangers, who they beat last night. So they're beating. Not only are they in that wild card spot, they've shown in the last month and a half that they can beat these teams, right? They've beaten Columbus. They lost to Columbus, but they also beat Columbus. They beat the Rangers. They beat Detroit. They beat Buffalo. They beat Washington. So they're showing that they're able to play with these teams. So it's an exciting time, guys. Again, I don't think that the playoffs are the be all and end all for this team. At the end of the day, it's going to be more about whether or not they improve, whether or not they play good hockey, whether or not they continue to progress towards their ultimate goal. But it is exciting to see them in a wild card spot right now. It'll shut up some of those Leaf fans who like to troll and talk shit all the time. So, anyways, that's all she wrote. Again, guys, 3-2 Montreal, another big win. We will see you on Thursday. The Canadiens will play the Detroit. Almost said the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Red Wings. On Thursday, it'll be in Detroit. Is the game? What time does the game start at? Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern. So it's a regular start time. We will see you after the game. We'll be doing a show after the game. I am going to take a break at some point here. I don't know if it'll be on Thursday or not. It's been a ton of hockey lately. I've been between this and Habs Nation. I've been doing shows like 6 times a week for the last couple of weeks. So. Yeah, Frank says, well, I was going to say Wi-Fi, Line and Monty. I would have had 3 out of 4. You have a great night. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. You have a great night as well. I appreciate you coming by, and thank you for your comments. RDP, what's going on? Thank you very much. Peace out. Have a great night. I think this team could do some damage in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't disagree with that. I think they could as well. I mean, they're showing right now that they're a strong team. But again, I don't think it's the end of the world, and I don't think it's like – the reason I say it's not the end of the world is because I don't think that, Canadiens fans – I don't think it's a good thing for Canadiens fans to have that expectation because we see what Montreal Canadiens fans do when they get disappointed. They can be a pretty toxic bunch, and it's not a good place to be, and it's not a good place for the team. So in that sense, I hope the expectations are tempered. And I also, if they get into that spot, then the fans and the media also have a tendency to start saying, well, let's go sign this guy, or let's go and get this guy, and let's go and do that, and we need to bring in a top 6 forward, and we need to do this. No, we don't. We just need it to happen organically. We need to let it happen. We need to be patient, and we need the Canadiens need to just relax, and they are. To be fair, they are. It's the fans and the media that need to relax, but this will happen. It's just a matter if the team, if Hughes and Gorton and the rest of the team is allowed to let this happen, it's going to happen. And the only thing that is going to derail the rebuild is impatience. And when I say impatience, I suspect that the management team has a very high level of patience. And the only impatience that I see possibly being a problem is going to come from the fans and the media. So that's our job, right? Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon are doing their job. Marty St. Louis is doing his job. The players are doing their job. As fans, our job is to be smart, to be informed, to know what's going on, and to not do anything that is going to knock this train off the tracks, right? By freaking out if something goes wrong and calling for Marty St. Louis to be fired, for freaking out because Jakub Dobesh came in and played 5 really good games and thinking that he should be the starter, by freaking out because the team looks like they're, competing for a playoff spot and thinking that we should go, trade for guys like Mikko Rantanen and Sidney Crosby and so on and so forth. Like, that's our job. Our job is to be smart and to realize that they're in a rebuild, and that, if we're going to, instead of reacting through our emotions, we react with our brain, right? I know emotions is a big part of being a fan, but at the end of the day, you can't put your emotions over what's best for the team. And right now, what's best for this team is to allow it to continue to rebuild and allow the management to continue with the plan that they've put in place, and not to put pressure on them to abandon that plan because, our emotions are such a way that we feel like this needs to happen or that needs to happen, or Kirby Doc needs to be, somebody needs to, push Kirby Doc off a bridge, or somebody needs to fire Marty St. Louis, or Alex Newhook has to go, or whatever. Like, it's, don't let your emotions make you into that person, because the reality is if you're patient and you let it happen, it's going to happen, right? Uri Slavkovsky's fine. Kirby Doc is fine. Alex Newhook's fine. It's going to be okay, right? And so that's our job as fans, right? Our job as fans is to be, to be informed, to be knowledgeable, and to use our brains. Obviously we use our hearts. That's what makes us fans, and that's what makes us, great as fans. But again, you need to use your head as well sometimes, and I think that is. If I could say one thing to all Montreal Canadiens fans, that's kind of the message I would send. Would be, don't let your heart tell you that we should go out and sign Mikko Rantanen because it looks like the Canadiens might have a chance to make the playoffs this year. And you're going to go out and trade 4, 5, 6, draft picks or prospects to get Mikko Rantanen, and then pay him $15 million, $14 million, $15 million. Don't let your emotions, get you so horned up that you feel like you want to trade 2 first-round draft picks and, Owen Beck and Logan Mailloux for Sidney Crosby, who's 38 years old, or 37 years old, by the way, right? So those are the, the pressure of the fans and the media in Montreal is a real thing. Now, I think that Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon have the resolve to stand up to it, and to resist it, and certainly they have the support, it looks like, of Jeff Molson, which is good. But again, why as fans, we need to not be part of the problem. We need to be part of the solution, right? And being part of the solution for the Montreal Canadiens is being patient, understanding what they're doing, informing ourselves about what they're doing, and being knowledgeable about what the rebuild is and what the plan is and what the long-term goals are, and what that looks like. Right? So again, if you feel compelled to go on Twitter or Blue Sky or some other social media platform and call for Marty St. Louis to be fired because the Canadiens aren't playing, because you just watched the game and you're upset at the way they played, maybe just, take a breath and just relax for a minute. If you feel compelled to go on Twitter or Blue Sky and say that, the Canadiens need Mikko Rantanen. If we get Mikko Rantanen, we're contenders right away. Getting Mikko Rantanen makes us immediate contenders. Well, contenders for what? Right? Yeah, it makes us play. It makes the Canadiens a playoff contender, and they probably make the playoffs. But what after that? What after that when they have to pay Mikko Rantanen $14 million? What after that when they lose, 3 draft picks and 2 high-level prospects? What do they do then? What are you going to do then when you're paying Mikko Rantanen $14 million for the next 8 years? And all of a sudden you look like the Toronto Maple Leafs because you missed your window, and now all of a sudden Cole Caulfield, wants more money because he's on his next contract. And Lane Hudson wants more money because he's on his next contract. And Nick Suzuki wants more money because he's on his next contract. And now all of a sudden you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? And yeah, you've got a good team and you're fun to watch and you're exciting and you make the playoffs every year. But you get knocked out, in the first or second round. And realistically, you don't have much of a chance of making the playoffs because you're paying four guys, $50 million. So, anyways, that's my rant. That's it for tonight. Canadiens win 3-2. That's all she wrote. I do appreciate everybody for coming. If you haven't given a thumbs up yet, guys, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. Hit the subscribe button down below. If you're watching live, if you're watching in a replay, thumbs up, subscribe button, notification bell, smash all that stuff. Do it. Let's get the group going here. Let's get people barely A2Z. I'm just about to shut her down, but I do appreciate you coming by. I haven't seen you here in a while. But anyways, that's it. That's all. 3-2 Canadiens. They're in a playoff spot. Things are looking good. Again, it's not. The rebuild's not over. There's still a lot of work to be done. Making the playoffs isn't the ultimate goal, but it certainly is fun to watch for now. And we will see you in the next one. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, docks to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliners